Hey, Lewis, what's up?
Hey, hi, how's it going? It's been a while, I think. Is it? I don't
Uh,
know.
we missed last week because poor planning, I guess, and
Yeah.
now it's this week, which we're doing even though we're behind on everything we're covering. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Still though, we're going to cover some things, so I guess,
we'll cover what we've seen
yeah.
so far, and then we'll probably have time left over. Although maybe not, because this is our first time starting talking about shows. So usually that means we spend a bit more time on stuff, even if we're not caught up. So we may
Uh,
spend the whole time talking about shows, even though we're not caught up on them, on all of them. I'm caught up on some of
oh,
them.
yeah.
But if not, we'll just think of something else to talk about, or we'll end it early. Either way works.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I remember last few seasons where when we started off, we didn't really have much to talk about because there wasn't really much to talk about. So, we'll see how it goes, I guess. Though, that being said, we only have, like, specific episodes to talk about rather than a bunch like we do right now.
Yeah, I mean, when we last season we started like decently on time, so we
Oh,
were
yeah.
able to cover like the first 2 or 3 episodes, which are usually like the intro episodes. So that's why we didn't really have much to say, other than we'll see where it goes.
Mm,
But now we're like already halfway through the season, so
shit, yeah.
I mean, I I don't know if I said it last week, but the whole reason I'm so behind on everything is because when I was working on the ReZero video, it got to the point where I was doing the video editing, which ended up being fucking pointless anyways. Thanks, TV Tokyo.
Ah.
Um, I knew it was going to happen too because I heard other people having problems with TV Tokyo when using ReZero footage. So I knew it was coming, and I did it anyways, just so I could feel happy that I did it, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
Oh well.
yeah, I was doing the video editing and it was taking a really long time because I was actually putting like effort and time into it, which is I hate effort and time, which is why I don't ever do video editing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do it because, like, by the point I get, because, okay, first I write the script, then when the script is done, I go over it like once or twice to make sure I didn't fuck up anything stupidly, which I usually don't, but sometimes I do. Then I record it, and then I edit the audio, and then at that point, I'm so done with everything about it that I just want to put it out and get it out of my mind. So I usually just skimp on the video editing, and I just use some art and stuff. Plus, as is shown in the ReZero video, using clips ends up being copyright bullshit anyways, which is why there really needs to be another method we can use that avoids this kind of horse shit from happening in the first place, but we haven't managed to figure something out yet. I say we as in like the YouTube community, but I might be the only one trying to figure something out. But
Yeah.
I don't really know. But anyways, the more popular videos like Toradora and stuff I know that are going to get a lot of views, I want to make actual videos out of them because I know more people will watch them that way. So I was
Mhm.
working on the editing video stuff for ReZero, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when I do video editing, I make sure like all the scenes I'm talking about when I'm talking about specific scenes are like being shown and like relevant and stuff like that, which involves some really weird editing sometimes, like re-clipping the same shit over and over again, but using the right
Yeah.
timing and stuff, and sometimes trying to make them blend into each other and shit like that. But anyways, the point of this rambling is getting to is that uh I was spending so long on the video editing for ReZero and it was taking so long to get out, and I was getting annoyed that I basically stopped everything else so that I could work on the ReZero video, which included watching anime. So I was not finished on the shows that ended last season that I was watching, which I pick up like 20 fucking shows a season, so that's a bunch of shows I had to finish from last season, which I have finished everything from last season now, although some are carrying over into this season, but the ones that aren't, I'm finished, and the ones that are carrying over, I'm up to date on at least. So now I'm watching the current shows, but because we're halfway through the season already, even though I'm only picking up
Oh.
like 10 shows this season, that's like 5 or 6 episodes a show for at least 10 shows plus the carryover shows. That's like 15 shows. So that's like what, 70 episodes of anime that I have to watch, which I've already done some of,
In that ballpark.
but yeah, that's why I'm still not caught up on stuff. I'm prioritizing the shows we're covering first, so by next week I should be caught up on what we're covering. I already caught up on like one show and very close to a second, so I should be caught up next week on the stuff we're covering, and then everything else that I wanted to watch this season I'll have to watch after that, and it's still gonna be a hassle. But yeah, that's why I'm behind on the shows. I don't know about Lewis.
I'm lazy.
There we go.
Nah.
Simple enough.
No, I've been busy. I've been very busy. I have college work and things are
Yeah.
starting to become due now. So we've been doing a lot of work. We've actually managed to successfully integrate a dance pad into our video game project this semester
Oh
for
wow.
this semester. Yeah. Um So that will definitely get us the big bucks. I'll tell you though, here's a little fucking funny story though about like some fucking smartasses that are in our class. We have an Oculus on college. We're not from like a super fancy college, so having a developer's kit of an Oculus is pretty big. Now this group are deciding to do an Oculus and a Kinect and integrate that into their game. And basically, what you're doing is that you're flying a drone around, and you're using your hands to basically fly and tilt yourselves, and it's going to be in the first person perspective, which is totally going to be nauseating because motion sickness, but whatever. And now they're integrating fans. Now this isn't like some like insider gamer term for like what fans are. Literal fans. So, like, when you're moving forward, the fans in front of you would blow at you very hard, and vice versa for when you're moving backwards. Like, it's funny. It's a funny idea. But Jesus Christ, lads, calm it down. Ugh.
So, basically, in order to play the game, you need an Oculus, a Kinect,
yes.
and a bunch of fans.
Yes. And, like, it's not that much of a game, really. You're just flying about.
Wow.
I don't know.
Maybe
Anyways,
just stuck to the Oculus and just been like a bird sim or something.
Yeah,
it's
like
simple.
Like that there was that weird bird game that they showed off at the Ubisoft E3 press conference this year. Whatever it was called. You were flying the eagles and shit. They could have like done that sort of idea, ripped that off. Yeah. It's like we're kind of ripping off Rock of Ages for our game, but we're not really.
Well, we should get to the shows we're covering, even if we're not caught up
Yes.
on them. The order we're going to cover them is a little weird. Lewis, you're caught up about the same amount on each show, are you?
Yeah, I've watched the first 3 episodes of everything, and did a 5th episode of March Comes In Like a Sun came out today? Because if not,
I think so. I think Occultic 9 and March Comes In Like a Lion came out today.
Well, I've only watched 4 episodes of March Comes In Like a Lion.
Okay, I just wanted to know because we'll do a normal order we cover. There's a bit of a system to the order we cover shows in. We do any carryover shows or whatever we do first, and then we do the popular shows, and then we do our picks. Sometimes that rearranges the order because of it. So our normal order, we're gonna cover Bungo Stray Dogs first, since it's not a carryover, but it's a second season of something we already covered, so it's technically a carryover. So we'll do that first normally.
Oh, right,
I think we're gonna do it. We'll probably do it first this time, anyways, because it's the one show I'm fully caught up on. And then we would cover the next 2 shows, which is the most popular show and the second most popular show, which would be Drifters and Occultic 9 respectively. And then Lewis's pick for the season is March Comes In Like a Lion. Ooh. So that's the order we'll normally cover it in. We're going to move them around a little bit to fit what I've seen, because Lewis has watched about the same amount for everything. So I'll just do the shows I've watched first so we can have something to talk about. And then Lewis can just give his thoughts on the stuff I'm like not caught up on at all.
Cool.
So first show, like I said, will be the normal one we cover first anyways, which is Bungo Stray Dogs. So what have you thought so far? You've watched 3 episodes of the new Bungo Stray Dogs, Lewis?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're that's an
I'm quite
unfortunate time
behind.
to stop, actually, because you're 1 episode off of the opening arc ending.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, it's 4 episodes long, and then it jumps back to the current timeline.
Oh, that's actually gonna be my first question. If it's gonna be like a constant prequel throughout, or not?
Nah, the first 4 episodes is like Dazai's past, and then it jumps back into the present timeline and what's happening.
All right, cool. Well, I guess my first, qualm maybe with season 2 of Bungo Stray Dogs is that it's definitely so far anyways, up to episode 3, it's abandoned its sort of lightheartedness from season 1. Now season 1 had that great sort of mixture when it came to like its serious side of things and its lighthearted side of things. I feel like that was kind of abandoned after the bar scene in episode 1. Now I'm not saying that like it's necessarily a bad thing that they're taking this sort of direction, but it's definitely sort of hindering my enjoyment of the show. It's sad that we got like a huge chunk of info for Dazai's past here, and it's kind of like taking me out of it all because I'm not I'm on board with it. I'm definitely on board with it. It's just it's not as enticing or as exciting as it was last. I keep saying last season, but like for the first season, mainly because I felt like the humor and everything that like on the downtime that sort of like humanized the characters. It made them a lot more enjoyable to watch when they're in those sort of like dramatic situations. Um, like the characters themselves have been humanized to an extent, but not as much as they were in the first season, which is, I guess, to be expected because it's only been 3 episodes. But regardless, it's still I'm still enjoying it. It's just not really reached the same sort of level as season one. The plot, so far has been taking a, I wouldn't necessarily say a front seat for the characters, but I guess the characters are not showing as an importance as the first season as well. Um, Obviously the main thing going on here is, I guess, since this is only the prequel section of like it's an extension. I don't want to like degrade it enough to say that it's just an exposition dump, but it's definitely its priority is definitely to give information to the viewer about the Port Mafia, and just more info about Dazai's past and who he once knew. Um, in regards to the main dude, red haired, name escapes me. Um, yeah, I enjoy his superpower is nice. He has a very cool, defined personality as well. Um, the fact that he never kills anyone, it's basic, but it gets the job done in defining who he is and his entire ideas and ideals through doing his job. And it's kind of ironic how he's sort of in the situation that he is. Like, he's in the Port Mafia, who is a pretty dangerous group of people, yet he doesn't kill. And if he did kill, he would definitely be a more high-ranking dude. Because, they always keep going on about the fact that he's always, he's such a low rank, he does all this boring work, or blah, blah, blah. And yet, if he, showed those capabilities through hostilities, he would definitely be a lot more better off than he is. Yet he chooses himself not to kill anyone else, and it's a cool dynamic to him. But yeah, I feel like Dazai himself as well. While some good information about like his entire mindset, at the time is being divulged, I feel like his. Maybe because I haven't actually reached the end of this arc, I haven't been able to see the purpose of it, and I haven't been able to take it all within context of the actual show itself, or what the actual meaning behind this entire thing and why it's starting it off. But at the moment, it's kind of more of a for Dazai, it's more of a sort of I don't know. I guess it's just it's showing him, but it's also he has like the same role he did as he did in the first season, which is strange because this is I would imagine this would be for him. Like this would be his sort of backstory exposition, yet he's still taking not as a main character approach as you imagine he would. But nah, I guess I'm just want more of that funny shit that I saw of him last season, or first season rather. Yes, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mentioned a couple times when we were covering the first season, one of my favorite things about the director was his ability to flip in and out of serious and comedic moments and still have it all work without being so like tonally clashing. But I don't agree with the tone you're saying for this first arc bit, because I feel like while I appreciate he's able to do something like that, the point is that being able to do that relies on knowing when you shouldn't. And this first arc is a bit of a look into Dazai's past, and we know he's kind of fucked up. Like, he's charming and funny, that we know, but we also know that deep down there's some fucked up shit going on with him. So it makes more sense for this first arc to be a lot more serious as far as exploring him. You mentioned that you probably won't get everything until you watch the last episode of the arc, which is one more for you. But I mean, you are right, but because the last episode really does tie it all together as far as what the arc's doing. You can see a lot of what it's doing already, though. Like, obviously, we're getting to know Dazai a bit more, what he was like before he joined the detective agency, which I feel like is kind of the point also with why it's not funny, is because he's very clearly more sadistic in this arc, and that difference in his behavior is like intentional and showing how the agency changed him as a person, or maybe how he changed beforehand before going to the agency, who knows. Yeah, it really is a shame you didn't watch the last episode of the first arc. It'd be much easier to discuss this kind of stuff. Plus 16 is just fucking awesome. There is some cool shit that happens in it. There's a lot of neat directing bits. There was, I think it wasn't in the 16th episode, so I think you saw the scene. Yeah, because I think they're talking at the food place where the orphans are. One of my favorite conversations was when the main guy, I think his name is Oda or something, Oda something, and then Dazai, they're having a conversation at the like restaurant thing, and they both call each other weird for being in the Port Mafia for completely different reasons. Basically, it's interesting as far as I'm tripping over my own words here. It's interesting as is like a dynamic, because basically Oda's saying that I think Dazai actually says he's weird first, because he's like, you're in the organization and you're not trying to like rank up at all, you don't want to kill anyone, like you're really weird for being in here. And then Oda just fires right back where he's like, I think you're the weirder one for like just how like messed up like Dazai is, especially in this first bit. It's like this interesting dynamic of how they're both weird for like extreme, like almost in completely different ways, and yet they get along. And also part of this arc is also seeing what's up with the Port Mafia. We get more information on them just in general. Seeing how they were like, at least before the agency seemed to be doing a whole lot, because the agency doesn't seem to be doing anything currently. So that's interesting. And then but yeah, I can say once it jumps back to the main story stuff, like the comedic elements do come back. Cool. Mainly because there's quirkier characters to work with, and because the good guys in general are just quirkier. Like, you don't get much comedy from the villains in the show. So it makes sense once you're with the agency and the good guys, they're like weird and funny, and they do amusing stuff. There's a really funny scene in the first episode when it goes back to it. And we get to meet more of the people in general, mainly the guild, because they're the new people on the block. It's shown that one of the characters, or one of the writers, which I kind of expected, that's going to be in the guild, is H.P. Lovecraft. So it'll be interesting to see what his ability is and how that ties in everything. Yeah, I don't want to go over anything too specific because, again, you haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, it's kind of hard. I'm enjoying the start off so far, although I will say some characters like kind of got out of the limelight way quicker than I expected. Like they're kind of here. Maybe there's more to them that's going to happen later or something. But for right now, they're just like they kind of show up and then they just seem to like be gone. It's really weird to word this in a way that like doesn't spoil stuff, but they may still be around. Who knows? It's just kind of weird to see. I'm confusing myself at this point with how I'm wording this shit. But yeah, it's fun. It's nice to be back with Bungo Stray Dogs. I don't know if I'll look into the authors as much as I did the first season. I don't know if I'll need to, since now we're mainly dealing with more American and Canadian and English authors and such. Oh. So I'll probably just know them in general, just offhand, without having to look things up. But if any more Japanese writers show up, maybe I'll look into them. But it was, I don't know. It's just, I want to enjoy the show more this time, because it was a lot of, I mean, I did get more enjoyment from looking up stuff about the authors and why and how their real life personalities and their works inspired this fictional versions of them and how all that stuff ties in. But at the same time, it's like so much time, and I kind of want to just watch the show and have fun. If I feel like
Yeah,
it, I'll look up various characters if they're quirky enough or something, but otherwise I'll probably just be like, I'm good for this half.
Yeah, I didn't even really look up any of the authors, which is probably something I should have done. I only really like the only one that really registered for me last season was Rampo, and that was only because you know, that
Anime's
anime.
obsessed with him.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's the only one that really registered with me. I wonder if even I will know any of the people, since I have a very, I guess, ignorant mind when it comes to authors and shit. So who knows?
Who knows? You'll find out.
Exactly.
Maybe, probably. Who knows?
Yeah.
Was that all for the intro for Bungo Stray Dogs we wanted to cover?
Yeah.
So what are we gonna cover next? The next show I've seen the most of that I can talk about is Occultic 9. So we'll do that one next.
Cool.
Have you been able to keep up with Occultic 9, Lewis?
I've watched 30 episodes, and by the time of watching, well, by the time of me knowing while recording, there were only 4 episodes out. So technically, I am sort of kind of caught up, kind of.
Funny enough, I mean, I've also watched 3 episodes. I've watched like half of the 4th, but then we had to record this because I was busy getting my microphone working.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to finish the 4th episode, but I got like halfway through it. So we're about at the same place. But what I meant, did you keep up with it? I meant the fast pace of the show itself.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah. Like, I remember watching the end of the first episode, and that was like, oh, sweet, this is perfect for ADHD me. So, like, this is just, everything's just coming at you, one thing after another, boom, boom, boom. And then afterwards, it kind of just, Like, my enjoyment just kind of, like, it didn't really take a spike downfall, but it was just kind of, yeah. Like, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily think. I say the fact that I just kind of got immediately used to the show. I was just able to kind of like zone in and just like take everything in as just whatever, without really paying that, or without even really noticing the sort of high pacedness of the show. So yeah, I think it was all right, so to speak.
Okay. It's interesting because unless it's changed. I mean, I haven't checked in like a couple days, but I'm pretty sure it's still there. Unless I think the third most popular show was like the 3rd season of Haikyuu, which we can't cover because we're not watching the 2 seasons before that in order to cover it. But unless that changed, I mean, it's the 2nd most popular show that's being watched according to my anime list, at least, which I know not everyone uses it nowadays, but it's like the easiest way for me to figure out popularity because anyone can say like, it's so popular, so many people talk about it, but you only have your own view to work off of, so you don't know if like you literally are just seeing all of the conversation and like everywhere else no one cares about it. So yeah, for being the 2nd most popular show airing this season, it's extremely divisive. I see 2 main reasons that people give or are things talked about in regards to the show. One is a really dumb reason, and the other is like a reason that makes a lot of sense and definitely makes sense for the divisiveness. The first dumb reason is just people don't like the big boobs.
That's it.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not saying you can't like not like the design. Like, it's a subjective thing. If you don't like a character design, you don't like a character design, right? But saying that you like hate the show and you stop watching it because of it is like, how bad of tunnel vision do you need for that to be the reason you stop watching a show?
Their vision is blocked by the big massive titties. That's what's blocking them.
They take up the screen. Can't see what's happening.
Yeah. Like it's stupid. I don't know. Like it was used as sort of a comedic effect in the first episode, but like after the 2nd and 3rd, she didn't really appear at all. Really.
I feel like it's misleading intentionally. Like, you're supposed to see her as this big, ditzy, buxom idiot.
Yeah.
But there were hints in the 3rd season that there's more going on with her. Like, she seemed more normal for the most part when she got that phone call.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, I mean, that's a thing in general with the show. There's much more going on with every character than meets the eye, except for maybe the main neat dude. He's just wrapped up in a bunch of crap, and that's his extra information. Everyone else has like weird shit going on with them. And that's kind of the key thing that draws you in, is like everyone's hiding stuff and you want to know what it is. So, but yeah, I'm like, I mean, like I said, like, I'm not saying people can't not like a character design, but dropping an entire show just because of it just seems absurd, and calling it bad too. It's like, that is, I mean, I already used tunnel vision. I was trying to think of another word, but it really just is tunnel vision. Like, it's like you're only focusing on this one minuscule thing that doesn't matter really at all in the grand scheme of things. Like, have it be a negative if you want, but dropping the show because of it just seems silly. But the main reason, which we've been talking about, that makes sense for why people wouldn't watch it, is because this is very much a show that's hard to watch for entertainment because of its fast pace.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm gonna use ReZero as an example because it's an easy example for everything. With ReZero, there's always a bunch of shit going on behind the scenes, and like hints being dropped, and like for theory crafting as far as like what's going on and stuff like that. But it's like what's happening in the conversation currently. Like, Subaru will ask about Satella and you learn information about her, and then you use that information to mold ideas about what's happening and what her plans are. Like, it's very like blunt and in your face and delivered in a very straightforward manner for the most part. When, you know, when Emilia gives her name as Satella the first time, and then he talks to her again, and it's like, oh my god, Satella, and then she gets pissed off, and all the, you know, bystanders are like, what the hell did you just say? You know, like, it's delivered to you in a very blunt way, so it's easy to like see and digest, and then use it to like think about the context of everything else that's happening that you haven't been told yet. Whereas with Occultic 9, you get hints like thrown out randomly in like side comments that characters will make, and you sort of have to do the extra work to like figure out what the connections are yourself. Like when the detective dude is first talking with the other like adult detectives, and he's just like, oh, there's all this and this and blah 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 blah, and then he gets a phone call, and he talks about, like, the way he talks about the murder scene makes it seem like he either was part of it, or he wanted the murder to happen, or he was expecting it. And you have to, like, make these extra connections on your own. And if you're not paying attention, you will get lost. Whereas with ReZero, like, you don't have to pay that much attention, and you can still get all this information. I mean, if you're someone who doesn't, like, try to make those connections yourself, then you just won't get them regardless, and you'll just get the, you know, blunt show as it is. But that's, like, more so what Occultic 9 is more than anything. So like if you're not paying attention and you miss all these signs, you're gonna like, you know, take a bite of your sandwich, turn back, and you'll have missed a line that happened within those 5 seconds that like gave major hints of like what a character's motivations are, what they're trying to do and shit like that. So it's hard to watch this entertainment because of it, because you have to pay attention. Like, and I'm not saying like normal entertainment should be easily ignored or anything like that, but generally there's leeway. Like you can look at it, you know, what's going on, you know, kind of just relax and digest the information that's happening. With Occultic 9, like you have to be glued to it. You have to keep your brain working constantly in overdrive. I don't mean just working in general. I mean like in overdrive, like making connections and like figuring out what characters are saying ties in with other things and stuff like that. So it's hard to watch for entertainment, which is why it threw off so many people and why so many people got lost. Because if people are going to watch it for entertainment, then they're probably going to get lost. So that's why people fell off in that regard. And then people that just don't like fast-paced stuff in general, as far as like throwing a quadrillion characters at you and then being like, there is vague shit, and not caring enough to see what's going to happen and stuff. Like, I'll say the mystery behind certain characters is more interesting than the characters themselves right now. Episode 3, we got to know a bit more about some characters, so I care a little bit about them, but for the most part, I'm just curious what's going on behind characters. Like, we got the backstory of the one chick with like who lived with her dead brother for like a year and didn't even realize it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Which was interesting because the episode before kind of made it seem like she knew it was a thing, but she convinced herself otherwise, which you would think is like a conscious thing, but then it turns out in her flashback that it was unconscious. Like, she didn't even realize it herself that she was doing it. So there could have been like some weird occultic shit going on, which is the whole thing with this show. Is like, it seems kind of weird for there to be like, is occultic shit real when she's living with like this weird ghost thing that like breaks glass and light bulbs. So that's, I don't know.
It's,
I mean, maybe there's some weird science explanation for it, who knows, but it seems like the occult side of things already pretty straightforward to me. But yeah, that aspect where she's like living with this weird evil spirit thing seems more interesting than like her as a character. So it's always these like weird occultic side to stuff, and like the hidden stuff that's interesting behind all the characters more than them themselves right now. I already said that, but I felt like saying it again. What about you, Lewis?
Yeah, it's oof. I suppose, yeah, like there's I guess they're sort of like not really going to pull the trigger on any of the characters as of this point because well, it's the first 3 episodes. They're not really going to do that then, so they're probably just kind of like throwing a, well, there really isn't anything much of a plot, really. I guess the only thing that's really going on now is like what's code and who killed the person, the professor person. Like I guess everything has been kind of centralized within the characters themselves, and everything that has been going on with the characters themselves hasn't really been uh there hasn't been much done with them. Like the only thing extended piece of information we found out about was the girl who was living with her dead brother that entire time. Like it was um yeah, and it was nicely done, I must admit. Like those like flashes of red when they were like transitioning the scenes and stuff like that. Like there were some nice little quips like that, which prove that they're at least trying with the show in itself, and not just going to like throw it in your face. Like I admit there are some times when like the sort of fast pacedness of the show and the sort of like haphazard, we're going to like throw exposition at you like it means nothing sort of manner of way of doing things. It's interesting, and it can be quite frustrating at times to keep up with, but it's still sort of um a new take, at least. They're at least trying to add this sort of how would I describe this, um fresh, I won't say fresh take, because I'm pretty sure somewhere something has done it before, but it's something that's different from what you usually see to kind of like I guess intrigue people. But for the most part, it's sort of hit or miss, maybe. It's not as effective as they probably want it to be. I feel like a lot of times though it's better when they just, like, I felt like that conversation between the Dojin artist and the detective lad, like that was pretty cool. Like it was just a back and forth of just like, oh, do you know me? Do I know you? Sort of thing. Like I thought that was cool, and it kind of kept at a very sort of like not necessarily in your face pace, but like a sort of quickened, hastened pace, which was which worked with the overall structure of the show itself, and also was very entertaining as a whole to kind of keep everyone involved without like throwing you over the edge. But there are times where some things are just characters are either just speaking too quickly, or just things are just like thrown at you, and it doesn't make sense that it's not really, it doesn't seem like consequential, or it doesn't seem as important as it should be. Like a lot of the directing within Occultic 9 is very hit or miss at this point, I think. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'd say the directing so far is solid. Like it's decent at keeping your attention and stuff. Um, there are bits where it just kind of throws stuff out really quickly, and it's hard to keep track of it. But for the most part, I'd say the directing is pretty solid. Like it hasn't like been incredibly dumb and boring. Like at least this show's better than Chaos Head and Robotics Notes. They were boring as all hell. So
Yeah.
at least there's that. But yeah, I also like that conversation between the detective kid and the Dojin artist. Like you said, the back and forth was what made it so interesting. Is like they were almost playing like chess verbally, like
Oh yeah.
constantly trying to like pry information out of each other, basically, which was neat. Because I saw some people say the conversation was dumb and went nowhere, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
No.
Like, I mean, I guess you didn't gain any new information for the most part, other than the fact that she draws stuff from her dreams, but the literal conversation itself was interesting. It always reminds me of people who just like inherently don't like dialogue and stuff, and it's like, maybe if you didn't take dialogue on such a literal like face level, you would be able to enjoy dialogue more. Like the way characters say it and the purpose behind why they're saying things and like all that kind of stuff ties into whether dialogue is interesting or not, which I mean is still debatable at the end of the day, but I see so many people just pass off things as like, oh my god, exposition, and it's so boring, and it's like, but there's more going on in this conversation than just literally telling the audience information. That's just a personal grub, though. Maybe I'll make a video on good dialogue or something. No, I won't. I'm behind on everything. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Occultic 9 other than like I feel like we've got past the intro now because we got the little hint in the first episode of like all the people that like killed themselves in the lake and stuff, and so now we're caught up to that at the end of the third episode. So now we're like, it's almost like there you go, we caught up to the beginning now. So now it's time for like everything past that, really. So we've done the intro in the first 3 episodes, and now it's like the main story and stuff going on here out. And I also heard, I need to look up who it is, but apparently a well-known horror director is doing the 5th episode of Occultic 9. I saw that mentioned on Twitter.
Cool.
I didn't have time to look up who it was. I just saw it and was like, oh, that's neat. And then, yeah, we had to record. Yeah. So, that'll be interesting. The 5th episode, directing-wise, should be interesting to see. Especially if it's got that creepy kid in it some more. With the weird electronic voice when it zooms in on his face.
Very skinny-looking dude, yeah.
I thought it was genuinely creepy. I was, like, unnerved a bit.
Yeah, it was. It was well done.
Which is always nice. People always whine about horror in anime not being done well, but I feel like people want stupid jump scare style horror, which is fuck that. The better horror is the unnerving horror, which Occultic 9 seems like it's heading in the direction of. So it will be cool if it does pretty well in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, like I said, that's pretty much all there is to say for 3 episodes, at least for me. I don't know about you. You have anything to say, Lewis?
No, yeah. It's very much not a lot of plot, a lot of character hinting, not much. Well, there's a lot going on, but not much to talk about.
Well, the real story is more so how the characters tie together, more so than any real plot. But yeah, next show we'll cover, since you're probably most caught up on it, like you said, is March Comes In Like a Lion.
Oh, yes.
This and Drifters I've only watched 1 episode of so far because I wanted to like finish shows and then move on to the next one. So I've only watched 1 episode of March Comes In Like a Lion, but I liked the first episode. I was kind of bored in the first half, and then it started to pick up in the second half when the cheerful family came in together, which was a nice little like balance. Because the first half was like, it's nice setup with all the dread, and you get to know like the main character and his like kind of emotions as far as like where he is mentally. Like it does a good job of setting that up, but it almost drags on too long. And it gets almost overbearing, so it was kind of like, all right, come on. I paused the episode a couple times near the end of the first half because I was getting a little like overwhelmed by it. But then it introduced the family, which is nice and cheerful and has great kid characters. Especially, I think her name's Hina, the one that like jumps in and out of her fucking background flowers. So that was a nice balance between that. And it was way easy for me to watch the rest of the episode once they showed up. Yeah. So it was a good balance in that regard. And I actually am eager to watch more after that. It's just I want to finish catching up on Occultic 9 first, which I'm close to doing, so...
Nice.
Oh, wait, I think I said before the 5th episode of Occultic 9 is the horror director, the well-known horror director. I think it's actually 6, because I think 5 came out today. Yeah. So I think it's 6, actually. It's the one coming out a week from now, although when this goes up, it'll be 6 days, I think. So that's what I meant. My bad. Just tangent to correct myself. But yeah, I'm actually eager to finish Occultic 9 so I can start going on March Comes In Like a Lion. I'll just let you give your thoughts since you're more caught up than I am. So cool. What do you think March Comes In Like a Lion so far, Lewis?
Well, I'm very much a fan of these sort of like, I guess, slow pace character, I don't want to say slice of life things, but just character stories each and every episode, and they kind of like divulge or kind of like funnel rather into like one lasting character story. I'm not going to give it too much away since you're behind stuff, but yeah, I feel like the what am I going to say here? The kind of difference between the sort of cheerful home life of sisters versus the sad life of Ray. I know his first name's Ray, but I forget his third name. You know, that sort of like lack of a better term, difference. It's the sort of like key point that they're trying to get at. The last episode 4, wasn't really all about Ray. They did actually hint about something major in his background. Like they're constantly hinting at something more beyond Ray's dread and stuff like that, which is pretty well done. I really like the sort of direction they're going with that. Sometimes it's kind of like in your face about it. Sometimes they're kind of like, ooh, maybe it's this, ooh, maybe it's that. But yeah, the family definitely had a greater impact. I suppose that's the sort of, maybe that's what they're going for here. You know, once the sort of like, they do have that sort of like fluffy nature towards those segments when they're all together and they're all eating and they're all having a fun time. But then there are moments when like things aren't so fluffy, that things really start to get dreadful. It's really hard to describe this because I have to draw on specific events to like give examples of like those sort of like, you know, not so fluffy times. But really it's just I feel like it really does a good job of nailing the kind of difference in tone between the sort of happy times when they're all eating and having a fun time with as a family, between just having utter dread and sorrow be washed over the characters. Like they nail that pretty well, and they can kind of like change between those on a flip of a dime. So it's very cool to watch. They've again not necessarily pulled the trigger on any characters as of yet. Well, they kind of have, but not to the point where like, you know, everything's by divulge and there's been a sort of character arc. It's just been a lot of things have been kind of thrown at you, and it's just been sort of, this is how to kind of go about their day-to-day life. It's an interesting watch. I know a lot of people have been praising this as a sort of must watch because, you know, it's about the sort of depression kind of, but I think it's a lot more than that. You know, it has a good structure towards it, and it's not all about just, you know, Ray and his troubles. Like it kind of extends beyond him, which is probably what the show benefits from in the long run. What else can I say? Soundtrack's nice. Animation is good. It's by Shaft. I was actually surprised that it was Shinobu directing this, because his style was a lot more in your face and not exactly subtle. So I was actually surprised that he was actually the one directing this. So I don't know what that'll actually mean. Maybe he's doing a different technique, but there is some definite sort of Shinobu classic traits in there with, you know, the tilting of the heads and shit like that. But, you know, it's not as in your face as Bakemonogatari or whatever. So it's definitely a nice change of pace, a much more pleasant change of pace for him. Other than that, voice acting is good. Animation has always been solid throughout. It's turning out to be a show that I really look forward to watch whenever it's released. So yeah, I'm just really a fan of these sort of comfy shows with a, you know, dark twist to them. But it's definitely turned out to be one of my favorites this season.
Yeah, I mean, it seems cool so far. Like I said, I'm interested in watching more. You mentioned Shinbo directing, and that's the thing that's always worries me the most when I watch shows like him, because his directing is like, Shinbo doesn't have a filter. So he's like 50-50 when it comes to directing. Like, some stuff he does works really well, and then other stuff is just Shinbo feeling like doing something because he feels like doing it, even if it doesn't really do anything at all. But the first episode directing wise was pretty cool. Like, I mentioned the scene where one of the daughters had like background flowers or whatever for like her cutesy little scene, and then she jumped through it because she forgot something and then came back. Like, that was fun. But there are other times, like, I can't give an example in this show yet because he hasn't done it, and I hope it stays that way. but I remember the point where I was already losing interest in Nisekoi as I watched it, but the point that really like got me as far as like why am I watching this show was they were in the park, and I think Chitoge and the main dude, whatever his name is, were like doing their fake relationship thing, and I think Onodera is like coming by or whatever, and they have like a panic, and in the anime, the way they handle this scene is they randomly, the show just becomes a manga, like there's just a bunch of panels that they go through, and I just sat there for a minute and I was like, what is the point of this visual exactly? Like, does it add to the comedy? Is there like some thematic purpose? And there wasn't. It was just Shimbo feeling like, maybe Shimbo was just fucking bored of the show and he felt like doing something visually. I can't blame him in that regard if that's the case, but that's how it is with Shimbo. Like, sometimes you get like just the right thing, like you get Madoka, obviously, which is a huge smash hit, and that's because like Shimbo was firing on all cylinders and everything worked so well, and with like maybe like a very rare exception. But this is how it always is with Shimbo. Like, I appreciate that Shimbo does what he wants to do, because too many directors play it safe and their shows end up boring because of it. I ragged on that with the first season of Snafu because I thought the directing was just so dull. Like, it didn't do anything outside of the books. It was just kind of a chore to watch. But at the same time, like, while it's nice to have a director being able to put their personal flair on stuff, like, sometimes your ideas aren't always good, and sometimes they won't always work. So it's important to have someone to, like, you know, let you know if something's going to work or not. Like, and that's usually what editors are when it comes to writers. So it's like you need someone to help balance things out, and Shimbo doesn't seem to have anyone like that. At least sometimes. Maybe he does on certain shows and others he doesn't, but and if it's the case that he doesn't have anyone to tell him no, then you get, you know, the random shit like you got in Nisekoi. Yeah, I mean, directing wise, like I said, first episode seemed fine. It'll be a matter of what happens after that. From what you're saying, it seems like it also seems good for the first 3 episodes or 4 episodes I think you watched. So, yeah, if it stays that way, it should be good. Like, when Shimbo's, like, you know, doing everything right and he's not doing pointless crap just for the sake of it, like, he's great. Like, I do like Shimbo. It's just that when he does stuff for the sake of it, like, I notice it and it just bothers me. Unless it's something that, like, I personally like the scene I keep mentioning where she jumps through the flowers in the background. Like, I mean, it does have a point because it adds to, like, you know, the cutesiness of the scene and like her personality of like, you know, going like, you know, hyperactive because she like doesn't even wait for the background to change to like run out of it and stuff. So it does add in that regard, but outside of that, it's like a minor thing. So it's not like there's too much important out of that, but it's like fun and it's creative. So I liked it. Whereas with, like I said before, the manga scene in Isekoi was, I mean, maybe it was creative, but it didn't feel interesting enough to matter. So, yeah, I mean, it felt like he was just like, I mean, because he was already adapting a manga. That's why I didn't feel that creative. So it was just kind of like, let's just copy the manga. So, but yeah, I'm interested in watching more. I don't know if you had anything else to say about the show, of what I was saying.
No, I had to be pretty vague about everything about it. Like, it's definitely worth your time. Just at least worth your 3 episodes, because I guess within the first 3 episodes, if you're not really on board with it, then you're not going to be on board with it at all. I feel like that's just going to be the general course of the show. Who knows? There could be some greater plot that's still waiting to be thickened up. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely going to be a very nice watch this season.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm interested in watching more, so it should be fun. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for March Comes In Like a Lion, and the last show we have left over is Drifters, which is the most popular show airing this season according to my anime list.
Yeah.
Lewis, please tell me if more interesting things happen in the show so I'm not bored anymore, because I did not like the first episode.
This is one heck of a show. What was the quote? There was a quote.
I mean, I assume crazy shit happens because it's the Hellsing author, but the first episode was just boring, so I'm just curious if like anything like worthwhile happens to like get my interest.
There was a scene where a World War II pilot in a fighter jet was flying alongside 2 dragons, and one of the quote was, "What the shit? Why the hell are you riding a dragon, you idiot?" Now, I feel like that is probably a good encapsulation of what the show is going for. Just completely in your face nonsense. Like, I'm very, very particular about what shows to watch when the show knows what it's doing. If you know what I'm saying. Like, there are shows like High School DD and Diamond Dealer, which are fully aware what they're doing and embrace it completely and utterly and do so. Now, then there are shows like Cross Angie, which know what they're doing.
Oh, we're not
and
starting a cross Angie argument, are we?
No, I'm not, and I'm just driving this as an example to prove my point.
It's a shit example, but keep going.
Cross Angie is a show that knows what it's doing and makes fun of itself for doing so. I feel like Drifters nails that sweet spot where it's fully aware of what it's doing, but it kind of goes along for the ride as well. Like it's nonsense, but it's at least enjoyable nonsense. If you want, like, I don't want to say if you want a show where you can just, like, I don't feel like it's a worthy compliment at all for saying, like, oh, if you just turn your brain off and watch it, it's great. I don't feel like it's a good compliment in any context, but it's definitely a show where if you just want to watch things get fucked up and you kind of want to see shit get done, I feel like Drifters is there for you. Like, it's definitely for an acquired taste, I must admit. And if you don't like it within the second or third episode, you're probably not going to like it at all. It's sort of the same thing when March comes in like a lion. It definitely is sorting itself out to be what you're going to see is what you're going to get. There's nothing lying underneath the surface with Drifters. There's no sort of deeper meaning within anything that is going on here. It is literally just Oda Nobunaga and two other Japanese historians with fucking Butch Cassidy, fucking Joan of Arc, Joan of Arc was actually on the Earth seats, but like just fucking shit up. Like, it's a cool concept. I do sort of like when a lot of historical figures are brought into like one big like playground just to fuck each other up. And they also have like these sort of, I guess, cool little, I guess, historical quips towards each and all the characters stuff. Like Joan of Arc, she mainly uses like fire as her I guess attacks and stuff like that, which is kind of ironic because like when she died by fire, so I guess they're kind of like using that as a sort of not a catalyst, but they're sort of like a motivation or whatever they're going to be fighting with. But yeah, like it's cool. I feel like there's it's very much in your face. I mean, not in your face, but it's very much upfront for what it is, which is cool. I feel because like I feel a lot of shows like that, a lot of shows like Drifters, tend to lie to itself. They tend to like have a lot of deeper meanings that don't really get that well fleshed out. Like I remember Nobunaga the Fool was kind of like this. Like it started off really fucking cool and badass and shit, but then it just went downhill after that. I feel like Drifters is kind of going to be an improved version of that. It's not. It has a full sense of self, and it's sort of trying to be entertaining along the way, if that makes sense. Is it like classic literature? Is it like this sort of immense work of art that is going to be sung of its godly like abilities and attributes for the upcoming ages to come? No, it's not anything of any class whatsoever, if I had to, relate it to anything, it'd probably just be a more well done Akame ga Kill. To be honest, like it's just let's just fuck shit up. Actually, Akame ga Kill is probably a bad example. To be honest, I would
Yeah,
attribute
not sure
it.
why you picked that one.
Nah. I attribute it more to Hellsing Ultimate, but I haven't actually seen Hellsing Ultimate. I just am saying it because it kind of reminds me of it without
Well,
actually
same
watching
author,
Hellsing
so that
Ultimate.
makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah. It's. I feel like having a discussion about drifters, however, is.
Going to be difficult.
Yeah. I was going to say redundant, but I don't want to say redundant. Like, the best thing I could do was like, hey man, remember that guy when he chopped the dragon in half? Yeah, man, high five, woo! Like, that's probably the best thing you could probably get out of a drifters discussion. Like, there is a plot you can talk about, but like, really, at the end of the day here, you're just watching shit getting cut up and things getting murdered. They're like, maybe this is just me just being an absolute idiot and just like looking at all these funny things that are appearing on my TV monitor, but I just feel like there's no real I don't want to say no substance to the show, but there is definitely no sort of backbone which you can sort of have a moral or even just any discussion at all on. Now you can talk about the sort of ongoing plot which is happening. It's there. I feel like down the line, the entire like I guess subworld with the dude with the newspaper smoking and just like sort of like, oh next, like I feel like that will probably have a lot more interesting discussion down the line, but at this current moment in time, nah. I feel like it's literally just this is a bunch of historical dudes cutting shit up, and for me, that is a-okay.
I mean, we'll find out next week when I'm caught up, and you'll probably be caught up too. So we'll see how the conversation goes when that comes. But you've given me hope that the show will be more entertaining because that first episode was fucking boring.
Huh.
It was a slog to get through that.
Yeah, I remember at the end of the first episode, they did that sort of long spiel about like, oh man, whatever happened to this dude, and like,
what happened in history, dude?
Yeah.
And they just went on like for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's definitely something a like call for Japanese people only. Like but I knew stuff about Nobunaga's history, so at least I sort of like got along with that. So, but it was. I feel I completely understand why you found that boring. Second episode is definitely a lot more entertaining.
Yeah. Also, it's weird that you use Nobunaga the Fool as an example of like it getting worse over time or something. Because I thought Nobunaga was like cool in the first couple episodes, the middle was whatever, and then the last like 6 episodes it actually got really good.
I feel like that's what happened.
I thought you thought the same thing when we were talking about it.
I remember.
Maybe you need to rewatch Nobunaga the Fool.
I remember the ending was kind of satisfying, but probably. You know what? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. But I remember there was a certain point in time when I was not satisfied with Nobunaga the Fool.
Alright, well, I think that'll cover all the shows, and we actually used up all our time, so
nice.
It works really well, surprisingly. That's probably because we wasted a bunch of time at the beginning talking about random shit.
Yeah, well, that's just par for the course, really, but...
True.
There was... This is kind of a necessary thing to do, because like we have to be sort of like unspecific about things. You can be specific about Bungo Stray Dogs. I couldn't be specific about Mark Shrooms and like Lions. So I guess the sort of like lack of runtime with shows is not that influential.
True. But yeah, that'll do it for this week then. So any closing comments, Lewis?
No. Can you hear that cat?
What cat?
There's a cat, a very noisy cat in the background. Maybe it'll come up on my recording. Anyways, no.
If If anything, you should hear things in my background.
Funny things are going down. Anyways, closing comments. None. Ooh.
Great closing comment.
I should.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's my closing comment. I'll think of closing comments for the next week. Woohoo!
Wow.
Yeah.
Great closing comment.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next week.
Bye bye.